Hi everyone, this is BritSimon. The new lottery period for DV2024 is going to open tomorrow. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to explain to you the most critical mistakes that people make when entering the lottery. These are mistakes that you can't recover from typically, and will totally destroy your chances of processing your case. You may be selected with some of these mistakes. In other words, they would pick you as a selectee, but you are guaranteed to fail in your interview process. So you'll spend money, you'll waste time, and it'll all be for nothing if you don't be careful about these mistakes. So I want to make sure you're absolutely clear on not making these mistakes for your DV lottery entry in DV 2024. Okay. Okay. Let me just first of all explain a little bit about me. Who am I? Why am I talking to you about the lottery? Because you may not have come across me before. My name is Simon. I go by the name of BritSimon in the DV community, the Green Card lottery community. I'm actually a person that grew up in the UK, and myself, my wife, and my daughter came to the States in 2014 after having processed through the Green Card lottery process ourselves. I originally came on the H1 visa, and I switched to residency through the Green Card lottery. My wife was from Spain, and so I was able to get the Green Card from her. Since 2013, I've been studying, or 2012, I've been studying the Green Card lottery rules, etc. And since 2013, I've been helping people to go through their Green Card lottery process. I don't charge any fees. I'm not a lawyer. I just do this to give back and to inform people about the process. And once you're involved, once you're a selectee, you will certainly hear about my name. I'm probably one of the best known people in the world about the Green Card lottery process. Many people will refer to me the most difficult questions, but I can help you through this process and make sure you have the best possible chance of selection. So that being said, let's talk about the absolutely critical mistakes you must not make when you enter the Green Card lottery. Okay, the first mistake is probably the most critical mistake. If you get this wrong, it is absolutely certain that you'll be disqualified during the process and only when you get to interview. So that means you'll have paid your fees and you'll have gone through the process, you'll have waited a long time, and you'll be denied. And there's no recovering from this. There's no persuading the CEO. There's no excuse for this. It is absolutely 100% certain rule. The rule that I'm referring to is that you must include every eligible derivative on your application, your DV lottery application. So when you enter in this next month or so, you must include your spouse if you're married, and you must include all of your children if you have children. And for the children, people get confused about this. Let's be clear what we mean. It means the natural children that you have, or any adopted children that you gained through a legal adoption process more than 2 years ago, or any stepchildren. And that last one is the one that tends to throw people. You may have married someone who was previously married or in a relationship and brought children to your relationship. Those kids are your stepchildren. Whether or not you had legally adopted them doesn't make any difference. Whether they live with you or not doesn't make any difference. If they are unmarried and under the age of 21, then they have to be included in your DV lottery application. And if you don't include any of the children, whether it's your own children, natural children, whether it's through adoption or through a stepchild process, through marriage, if you don't include any of those, you absolutely certainly will be disqualified. Okay. Same thing for a spouse. If you're married, you have to include your spouse. If you're separated even, unless you're legally separated or divorced, you must include your spouse. So if you're currently married to someone, even if you're not seeing eye to eye, even if they moved out a year ago, if you're still legally married, you need to include that person on your DV lottery entry. Now, some people will say to me, but I couldn't get a photo of my spouse or my child or whatever. Then don't enter the lottery. It's as simple as that. You're just wasting your own time if you don't enter the lottery with their photo, etc. So you need to actually take this point seriously. This is easily the easiest way of making sure that you won't get a green card. You will be selected because they don't know at the time of entry whether you're telling the truth or not. So you'll be selected, but later on, if you reveal to them, or if they find out, and they have ways of finding out, if they find out you have a child or you have a spouse that you didn't declare in the original entry, then they have absolutely no choice about it. They have to disqualify you. Okay, so that's the first one. The second thing that it trips people up is the marital status. I just talked about it just a moment ago. If you're legally married, you need to enter as married. There are some other options which talk about legal separation, but legal separation is where a court has issued some sort of paperwork. You've gone through a legal process to establish that the couple is going through a separation process. It's a legal process. It's not just where you say, okay, I'm no longer going to live with my wife or whatever. It's where you've been to court and agreed that that's going to be the situation, that you are legally separated. There's a choice for that on the entry form. There's also a choice for divorced. Again, if you have been through a legal divorce process, then you can select that option. But you must not select that option if you're just going through a divorce process, if the divorce is not finalized, or if you just said, you know, I'm divorced, right? You can't do those things. It has to be a legal divorce process. Okay, so get your marital status correct. Make sure that your marital status is right. If, of course, you choose that you are single when you're actually married, by choosing single, you've lied about your marital status, but also you have not put your spouse on the form because you said you were single. And the combination of those two things guarantees you're going to be refused. If, on the other hand, you say you're married and you include a spouse that isn't actually legally your spouse, there is a risk of denial, but it's not a 100% certainty. Okay, so I don't recommend you do that. I'm not recommending you add a spouse that you don't actually really technically have, but it's not quite as serious. In some ways, it's not quite as serious. There is a few cases that managed to still get approved because they made the simple mistake in good faith about saying that they were married to this person, usually in cases of common law wives or common law relationships or traditional marriages. But I'm going to create another video specifically about that because there's some nuance to that. And you don't have to enter the DV lottery immediately. There is literally no difference between entering on day one or the last day. There is no preference given in any way to the time of entry. It's a totally random process of selection and numbering. So your priority level within the DV lottery is absolutely not to do with the time that you entered the lottery. So there's no need to rush this. You have at least a month to do your process if it's starting tomorrow. Okay, so marital status is the other one that you must not screw up. Next one is country of eligibility. So for the vast majority of you, your country of eligibility is based on the place you were born. It's not to do with your citizenship. It's not to do with the way you live now. It's not to do with the passport you hold now or anything else. It's to do with the place you were born. Okay. Now, your country of birth will be asked. It's usually question 5. I haven't seen the DV2024 form yet, obviously, but normally in question 5, it asks for country of birth. Then immediately after that question, there's another question that says, give your country of chargeability if that's different to country of birth. Now, there are very few people who will use that second question at all. Most of you simply put the country of birth in, and on question 6, the next question, you just you declare the option that says, yes, I'm using my country of birth as eligibility. You don't add another country. Now, the only reasons that you add another country are going to be very small possibilities. So, for example, in my own case, I was from the UK, which is not eligible to participate in the lottery process. My wife was from Spain, which is eligible. So when we entered, she entered with her country of birth and just that. And then I entered putting my country of birth as the UK. And then I chose the option in question 6 of which country am I charging to? And I entered there Spain, and through my wife's nationality or country of birth, okay, as the reason, okay? So that's an allowable option. You can charge to your spouse's country of birth if you're married and if you're both entering the lottery. You can choose your spouse's country of birth, but in general, you wouldn't want to do that unless your own country of birth is not eligible to participate in the lottery. And then the final sort of option that, for country of birth and country of chargeability is when your own country of birth is ineligible, but you believe you can charge to your parents' country of birth. That is a very rare, exceptional case, and I've created videos about it before. I really don't suggest anyone uses that unless they absolutely have to. And what it really depends on is that you can prove that your parents were only in your country of birth for some short temporary period of time when you were born. So let's say they were asked to go to that country during a time, for a period of time for employment reasons, for example. You would have to prove that they were asked to go there for that temporary period of time, and that's why you were born there. And so obviously the burden on you to provide that extra proof is really, it's probably too much for many of you because it's going to be from years ago. Excuse me. And it will involve your parents providing documents and that sort of thing to prove why they were there in that country. So generally speaking, you don't want to charge to your parents' country of birth. Use your own country of birth. Okay. And so that's the other one. Now, if you choose the wrong country of birth, or if you choose to use that second option, which is about country of chargeability, and that goes to another region that you're not eligible to use, then again, you're 100% certain to be disqualified on that. So be very, very careful. Like I mentioned before, the vast majority of you, over 99% of you, should only be using your country of birth as the selection in question number 5. Okay. 2 more quick things. Take a new photo for the process. Don't use an old photo. There's no need to use an old photo. In these days where we've got phones which have very good cameras on them and that sort of thing, or you can go to a professional photo studio, and for a few dollars you can have a photo taken. There's really no need to be using old photos. So one of the rules is that the photo itself should be new, should be a recent photo. Don't use an old one. Okay, take a new photo. And also enter one time only. Don't try and create multiple entries to the lottery. The government have all sorts of ways of figuring out that you have tried to cheat the system. Okay, so you don't want to create a situation where you've got more than one entry to the lottery. Now, the only exception to that is that if you, depending on your marital status or depending on your age, etc., there may be some reasons why your name is on multiple entries, and I'll explain why. If you're a married couple, you enter with the name of your spouse, And the spouse can also create a separate entry for themselves, which effectively doubles your chances of selection between the two of you. So you enter listing your spouse as accompanying you, and any children, of course. And then your spouse creates an entry, and she can list you, or he can list you, and so the two of you have a chance each of selection. Same thing can be said for children. Unmarried children under the age of 21 can be on your entry. Should be on your entry, in fact, and so they can be a derivative of yours. But if they're of the age where they've already completed education, they've reached high school education level, then they can also enter for themselves. Now, if they're chosen for themselves, they can't bring the parents with them, but at least they have another option of being entered on the lottery. So a kid, let's say 18, 19, 20-year-old child, has the possibility of being chosen by either of their parents' selection or on their own selection. So a child actually can have three chances of entry. Okay? So that's it. That's really what I wanted to tell you is the most critical errors that you can make during the process. If please just listen to this advice I'm giving you. It's absolutely solid advice. There's no doubt about what I'm saying to you. It is absolutely critical that you take this advice and follow the advice I'm giving you. Absolutely, certainly. Don't listen to anybody else that says, "Oh, don't worry about that. You can do this. You can do that." Anything other than what I've just explained is not true. Okay, so you can trust that what I've just said is the absolute truth and it's accurate, that you must be careful about these critical items. Now, the good news is, if you follow these tips, you're effectively increasing your chance not only of selection because you're following the rules, but also you're increasing the chance that you'll be able to get through the process and you will be given the green card at the end because you didn't make any of these mistakes right at the beginning of the process. Okay, and so that's really important. In fact, I would say that's even more important. It's one thing to go through the lottery process and not be selected. That's not fun. That's not a great feeling. But far, far worse than that is being selected. So in May, you'll find out you're a selectee, and then slowly it will become clear to you when you start asking questions that you made a mistake in your original entry that cannot be corrected, and you're going to be disqualified. And far, far worse than that is that you only find that information out when you go for interview, and by that time you've spent money on the visa, you've spent money on the medicals, you've paid money to obtain police certificates and all that sort of thing. You've spent months waiting for this process, and you get disqualified at the interview. That is absolutely the worst possible scenario. Okay, so please avoid that if you can, simply by following these instructions I'm giving you now. Okay, everybody, I hope that's going to be useful to you. The entry period for DV 2024 opens tomorrow, October 5th. It'll be open for just over a month. And as I mentioned before, you can enter one time. You can enter any time during that period of time when the lottery period is open. You go to dvprogram.state.gov. That's the only website you need. Do not enter through any other website at all. There's only one place to enter the lottery. And so you go to that one place on the web. It's a free entry. There's no need to pay anyone else to do that entry for you. There's like 15 questions. It's really not a long, complicated process. You just have to be a little bit careful to answer the questions honestly. Okay, so just be honest. Follow the advice I've given you, and you'll be fine. Your entry will be valid if you're then selected. Not everybody is selected. It's a lottery, not a plan. But if you are selected, the possibility to get a green card is amazing. And it's probably the simplest way to get a green card that there is. So by all means, take your chance and see if you can be a winner. See if you can be selected this year. I hope you are. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Thanks then. Bye-bye.